Hey everyone, you know those stories online about glitches in the Matrix? The ones where reality seems to bend just a little, and suddenly you're questioning everything you thought was solid? Well, I always dismiss them as fun internet myths, the kind of thing people share late at night to give themselves a quick chill. But let me tell you something that's going to make you pause and look around your own room a bit differently. My name is Diego Torres. I'm 32, and I live in a quiet suburb outside of Mexico City. I'm a freelance photographer by trade, always chasing that perfect shot, the one that captures a moment so raw it feels eternal. Last year, while digging through an old box of family photos in my abuela's attic, I found a picture that shouldn't exist. A photo of me standing in a crowd at a festival I've never attended, wearing clothes I don't own, with a date stamped on the back that's from a day I know I spent alone in my apartment. And ever since I laid eyes on it, strange things have been happening, like echoes of a life I never lived creeping into my own. Stick with me here, because what started as a curious find turned into something that has me checking over my shoulder even now, wondering if the world we see is just a fragile illusion. I'll tell you how it all unfolded, step by step, and trust me, by the end of this, you might start noticing glitches in your own reality too. It all began on a rainy afternoon in early spring. I'd gone to visit my abuela in her old house on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place that's been in our family for generations, with creaky wooden floors and walls lined with faded pictures of relatives long gone. She was getting on in years, 85 and still sharp as a tack, but her memory had started to fade around the edges. I was there to help sort through some boxes in the attic, stuff from my parents, who passed away in a car accident when I was a kid. Abuela raised me after that, so these visits were as much about keeping her company as they were about dealing with the past. The attic was dusty, filled with that musty smell of old paper and forgotten memories. I was sifting through a stack of photo albums, flipping through yellowed pages of birthdays and holidays, when I came across a loose envelope tucked between two albums. It wasn't labeled, just a plain manila thing, sealed with brittle tape that crumbled under my fingers. Inside were a handful of Polaroids, the old instant kind that develop right in front of you. Most were mundane, my abuela at a market, a cousin's wedding from the 90s. But then there was this one photo that stopped me cold. It showed a bustling street festival, colorful banners fluttering in what looked like a summer breeze, people laughing and dancing under strings of lights. In the center, clear as day, was a man who looked exactly like me. Same dark hair, same build, even the same scar on my left cheek from a childhood fall. I was smiling, arm around a woman I didn't recognize, holding a drink in one hand. The clothes were wrong, a red jacket I'd never owned, jeans that weren't my style. And on the back, scrawled in faded ink, was a date, July 15th, 2018. That hit me like a punch to the gut because on that exact day, I was holed up in my apartment with a bad flu, binge watching old movies and eating soup from a can. No festival, no crowd, no mystery woman. I remember it vividly because it was the day after my birthday, and I'd cancelled plans with friends. How could this photo exist? I sat there on the attic floor, staring at it, my heart pounding a little faster than it should have. Was it a doppelganger? Some long-lost relative who looked just like me? But no, the resemblance was too perfect, down to the way I tilt my head when I smile. I shoved it back into the envelope, telling myself it was just a weird coincidence, maybe a mix-up from a photo lab years ago. But as I climbed down the ladder, the rain tapping harder on the roof, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just peeked behind a curtain I wasn't supposed to. That night, back in my own place, a small apartment in a bustling neighborhood with views of the city lights, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I laid the photo out on my kitchen table under the harsh fluorescent light, examining every detail. The festival looked like one of those local fiestas in Puebla, about 2 hours from Mexico City, with mariachi bands and food stalls selling tamales and churros. I'd been to similar ones as a kid, but never that specific date or place. The woman beside me in the photo had long dark hair, a warm smile, and was wearing a sundress patterned with flowers. She seemed familiar, like someone I'd seen in a dream, but I couldn't place her. I even pulled out my old journals, I keep those, a habit from my photography days to jot down ideas, and confirmed, July 15th, 2018. Sick as a dog, stayed in all day, watched 3 episodes of that sci-fi show. No mention of travel or festivals. Unease settled in my chest like a cold fog. I decided to scan the photo and run it through some reverse image search online, just to see if it popped up anywhere. Nothing. No matches, no similar events. As I sat there, the clock ticking past midnight, my phone buzzed with a notification, a random email from an old account I hadn't used in years, promoting some photography workshop. Harmless, right? But the subject line read, "Capture the moments you missed." It felt too on the nose. like the universe was winking at me. I laughed it off nervously, but sleep didn't come easy that night. Every creak in the building made me jump, and in the dark, I kept imagining that other version of me out there, living a life parallel to mine. The next few days blurred into a routine, but that photo haunted me. I carried it in my wallet, pulling it out during quiet moments at work, shooting product photos for a local ad agency to study it again. My friends noticed I was distracted. One even asked if I was okay after I zoned out during lunch. "Yeah, just tired," I muttered, not ready to share this bizarre find. But then, about a week later, something shifted. I was walking home from a late shoot, the streets alive with evening traffic and the smell of street food vendors grilling elotes. My phone rang, an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. When I answered, there was silence at first, then a faint voice, a woman's, saying, "Diego, is that you?" My blood ran cold. The connection crackled, and before I could respond, she added, "I missed the festival. Come back." Then the line went dead. I stood there on the sidewalk, people brushing past me, my heart hammering. Who was she? How did she know my name? I tried calling back, but it went straight to a disconnected tone. That night, I dreamed of the photo, me in that crowd, the lights blurring into streaks, the woman's face turning toward me with eyes that weren't quite right, like they held secrets I wasn't meant to know. I woke up sweating, the photo still in my wallet on the nightstand, as if watching me. As the days turned into weeks, the glitches started small but built like a storm on the horizon. I'd catch glimpses in mirrors, my reflection lingering a second too long after I turned away, or shadows in the corner of my eye that vanished when I looked directly. One evening, while editing photos on my computer, an old file popped up unbidden, a digital scan of that same Polaroid, but this time, the date on the back read July 15th, 2023, 5 years later, a date that hadn't even happened yet when the photo was supposedly taken. I blinked, refreshed the screen, and it was gone, back to normal. Was my mind playing tricks? I started documenting everything in a notebook, jotting down these odd occurrences to make sense of them. Abuela, when I asked her about the envelope, just shrugged and said, "Mijo, old things have stories of their own, no help there." Then came the night that really amped up the fear. I was alone in my apartment, rain pounding against the windows again, like the weather was in on it. I heard footsteps in the hallway outside, slow and deliberate, stopping right at my door. No knock, just silence. I peered through the peephole, empty corridor. But when I opened the door a crack, there on the mat was a single flower petal, bright red, like the ones in the woman's dress from the photo. My hand shook as I picked it up. It felt real, damp from the rain. I slammed the door, bolted it, and spent the rest of the night wide awake, the photo clutched in my fist. What if this wasn't just a glitch? What if that other me was trying to bleed into my world? The tension escalated when I decided to dig deeper. I took a day off and drove to Puebla, to the spot where I thought the festival and the photo might have been. The town square was familiar from online searches, cobblestone streets, colonial buildings draped in vines. It was midday, sunny and crowded with tourists. I wandered around, showing the photo to a few locals at cafes and shops. Most shook their heads, but one older man at a souvenir stall paused, his eyes narrowing. "That looks like the Fiesta de la Luz, back in 2018, he said quietly. "Big event, lots of people." When I pointed to myself in the picture, he frowned. "You sure that's you? I remember a couple like that, happy, dancing all night." But the man, he vanished after, no one knew where. His words sent a shiver down my spine. Vanished? I pressed for more, but he clammed up, muttering about bad luck and changing the subject. Driving back, the road seemed longer, the shadows in the rearview mirror twisting unnaturally. That evening, my email inbox filled with spam, dozens of messages about alternate realities and quantum echoes, all from senders that didn't exist when I traced them. One had an attachment, a blurry video clip of a crowd, and in it, a figure that looked like me turning to the camera, waving as if he knew I was watching. I deleted it all, but the unease gnawed at me, making every ordinary moment feel laced with dread. By now, I was obsessed. Sleep came in fits, haunted by dreams where I was at that festival, the music swelling around me, the woman's hand in mine warm and insistent. "Stay," she'd whisper in the dream, her voice echoing like the phone call. Waking up, I'd find small anomalies, my keys in the wrong pocket, a book open to a page about parallel universes that I hadn't touched. I confided in a close friend, Marco, over coffee one afternoon. "Dude, this sounds like stress," he said, trying to laugh it off. "Maybe see a therapist?" But when I showed him the photo, his face paled. "That's creepy, man. Looks just like you." He didn't have answers, but it felt good to share, even if it didn't stop the weirdness. Then, the biggest glitch yet. I was at home, cooking dinner, when my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo, Me, in my own kitchen, holding the knife I was using right then, but from an angle across the room where no one could be. I dropped the knife, spinning around. The apartment was empty. How? Who took that? Panic surged through me, my breath coming in short gasps. I grabbed my keys and bolted out, spending the night at a hotel, the original photo burning a hole in my pocket. Whatever this was, it was closing in, blurring the lines between what was real and what shouldn't be. The following morning, I returned home cautiously, half expecting the place to be ransacked or worse. Everything was normal, too normal, like the world had reset itself. But on my doorstep was another envelope, identical to the one from the attic. Inside, more Polaroids. These showed scenes from my life, but twisted. Me as a child, playing in a park I never visited. Me at a job interview for a position I turned down years ago. And one of me with the woman from the festival, sitting on a bench, looking happy in a way I hadn't felt in ages. The dates varied, some past, some future. My hands trembled as I spread them out on the table. This wasn't just a photo anymore. It was a collection, a timeline that diverged from mine at some point. I felt watched, like eyes were on me from the shadows. That afternoon, I visited Abuela again, pressing her for details about the family history. There are stories, Mijo, she finally admitted, her voice soft. Your abuelo talked of echoes from other paths. He said photos could capture them sometimes. It was vague, but it fueled my fear. As night fell, back in my apartment, the power flickered, and in the brief darkness, I swore I heard laughter from the festival photo, faint and tinny, like from an old radio. I turned on every light, but the chill lingered, wrapping around me like an invisible shroud. Weeks passed in a haze of paranoia. I'd catch myself double-checking reflections, avoiding crowds where I might see that other me. One rainy evening, similar to the first, I received a package, no sender, just my address. Inside was a small journal, leather-bound and aged. The entries were in my handwriting, detailing a life where I did go to that festival in 2018, met the woman named Sophia, fell in love, traveled the world as a photographer. But interspersed were notes of warning. The glitch is widening. Don't let it pull you in. My pulse raced. How could this be? I burned the journal in the sink, watching the flames consume the pages. But the smoke lingered, smelling faintly of festival fireworks. That night, the dreams intensified. I was at the festival, but the crowd parted to reveal another Diego, staring back with my eyes, reaching out. I woke screaming, the photo on my bed as if I'd placed it there in my sleep. The unknown was suffocating, each day bringing a new layer of dread, making me question if I was losing my mind or if the matrix was truly glitching around me. To be continued. The paranoia was eating me alive, but I couldn't stop chasing answers. I started spending hours online, late into the night, reading forums about glitches in the matrix, parallel realities, quantum echoes, anything that might explain what was happening. Most of it sounded like conspiracy nonsense, but every now and then I'd stumble on a story that mirrored mine too closely. Someone finding an old photo of themselves in a place they'd never been, then noticing small shifts in their life afterward. One guy claimed he'd started receiving letters from his other self, warning him not to dig deeper. I closed the laptop quickly that night, heart racing, because the idea that the other Diego might be trying to communicate felt too real. A few days later, I decided to return to Puebla. I told myself it was just to clear my head, to see the square in daylight again, and prove to myself that nothing strange would happen. But deep down, I knew I was hoping for another clue. I arrived in the late afternoon, when the light was golden and long shadows stretched across the cobblestones. The town felt quieter than last time, almost expectant. I walked the same paths I'd taken before, past the church and the little cafes, until I reached the main plaza. It looked exactly like the background in the photo, same arched colonnades, same fountain in the center. I stood there for a long time, just staring, trying to imagine the festival lights strung overhead, the crowds filling the space. A soft breeze carried the scent of fresh tortillas from a nearby stall, and for a moment everything felt normal. Then I noticed something on the ground near the fountain, a single Polaroid, face down, half hidden under a bench. My stomach dropped. I looked around, no one nearby, no one watching. I picked it up with trembling fingers. It was new, the colors still vibrant. The image showed the plaza at night, lit up for the festival, packed with people. And there I was again, in the red jacket, arm around Sophia, both of us laughing at something off camera. But this time, in the foreground, slightly out of focus, was another figure, me, the real me, the one holding the camera right now, standing alone at the edge of the crowd, staring straight at them. The date on the back was today's date. My knees went weak. I sat down hard on the bench, clutching the photo. How could this be taken today when I'd only just arrived? I hadn't seen anyone with a Polaroid camera, hadn't posed for anything. The plaza started to feel oppressive, like the buildings were leaning in, watching. I shoved the photo into my pocket and hurried back to my car, driving home faster than I should have, checking the rearview mirror the whole way for shadows that didn't belong. Back in the city, I tried to ground myself in routine. I took on more photography gigs, forcing myself out into the daylight, surrounded by people. But the anomalies kept coming. One morning I woke to find my closet rearranged, clothes I never wear pushed to the front, the red jacket from the photos hanging prominently even though I'd never owned one. I tore through every drawer, every box, but there it was. Real fabric under my fingers, smelling faintly of smoke and summer nights. I threw it in a trash bag and left it on the curb, but when I came home that evening, it was folded neatly on my bed. No broken locks, no sign of entry, just there, waiting. The dreams grew more vivid, almost lucid. I'd find myself at the festival, music pulsing through the air, lights swirling overhead. Sophia would take my hand, pull me into the dance, her touch warm and certain. "This is where you're supposed to be," she'd whisper, her breath against my ear. I'd feel a pull, a longing for that life, the one where I wasn't alone, where every shot I took as a photographer was celebrated, where love felt easy and bright. But then I'd spot the other Diego in the crowd, the one who looked lost and pale, watching us with hollow eyes. He'd mouth something I couldn't hear, and I'd wake up gasping, sheets tangled around me, the taste of festival cotton candy still on my tongue. I stopped sleeping properly. Dark circles formed under my eyes, and my work suffered. Clients complained about missed deadlines, blurry shots. Marco tried to stage an intervention, dragging me out for drinks one night. "You look like hell, hermano," he said, concern etched on his face. I almost told him everything again, showed him the growing stack of impossible photos I now kept hidden in a locked drawer. But when I reached for my phone to pull up the latest one, the screen glitched, static for a second, then a frozen image of me and Sophia kissing under festival lights. Marco didn't see it. By the time I turned the phone toward him, it was back to my lock screen. He just patted my shoulder and said, "Get some rest, man." I nodded, but inside I was screaming. Then came the night that broke something in me. It was late, rain lashing the windows again, thunder rolling low over the city. I was sitting at my desk, the drawer of photos open, spreading them out like tarot cards, searching for patterns in the dates, the locations, the small differences. My phone buzzed, an unknown number again. This time I answered immediately. Silence, then breathing, soft and close. "Diego," the woman's voice said, clearer than before. "Why are you fighting it? Come to the festival. It's starting soon." My mouth went dry. "Who is this?" I managed. A soft laugh, almost tender. "You know who I am. You've always known." The call ended. I stared at the phone, then at the photos. One of them, the newest from Puebla, now showed the plaza empty except for me standing in the center, arms outstretched, as if waiting for someone to join me. I don't know what possessed me, but I grabbed my keys and drove back to Puebla, through the storm, wipers slashing frantically across the windshield. The roads were nearly deserted, headlights cutting through sheets of rain. By the time I reached the town, it was past midnight, streets slick and shining under sparse streetlights. The plaza was dark. No festival, no crowds, just a fountain murmuring quietly and shadows pooling under the arches. I parked and walked into the center, rain soaking through my jacket, heart pounding so hard I could hear it over the downpour. I stood exactly where the photos showed, arms at my sides, waiting for something I couldn't name. At first, nothing, just cold rain and distant thunder. Then, faintly, music, mariachi trumpets and guitars, drifting on the wind. Lights flickered on one by one overhead, strings of bulbs glowing warm against the storm. The plaza began to fill, not suddenly, but gradually, like a film reel speeding up. People appeared, laughing, dancing, colors bright against the night. The smells hit me, grilled corn, fresh flowers, gunpowder from sparklers. And there, across the crowd, was Sophia, in the flower sundress, smiling directly at me. She raised a hand, beckoning. My feet moved before I could think, carrying me toward her through the swirling dancers. The music swelled, enveloping me, and for the first time in months, the fear ebbed away, replaced by a strange, aching peace. But as I reached her, something caught my eye in the shadows at the edge of the plaza. Another figure, me, the one from my apartment, pale and wide-eyed, clutching a stack of photos, mouthing, "Don't." Our eyes met across the crowd, and in that moment I felt the world tilt, like two realities grinding against each other. Sophia's hand touched my arm, warm and real. "Stay," she whispered again, her voice cutting through the music. The lights brightened, the crowd closed in, and I felt myself slipping, the edges of my old life fraying like old film. I don't remember how I got home that night. I woke up in my bed the next morning, sunlight streaming through the curtains, birds chirping outside like any normal day. My clothes were dry, no trace of rain. The drawer of photos was empty, every single one gone, as if they never existed. For a fleeting moment, relief washed over me. Maybe it was over, maybe I'd imagined it all. But then I rolled over and saw it on the nightstand, one last Polaroid, freshly developed. It showed the festival in full swing, me in the red jacket, dancing with Sophia, both of us glowing with happiness. And in the far background, barely visible, a lone figure turning away, walking out of the plaza into darkness. The date stamped on the back was yesterday. I haven't found any more photos since then. Life has gone back to its quiet rhythm: work, friends, visits to Abuela. But sometimes, when I'm alone, I catch a faint strain of mariachi music from somewhere far away, or smell fireworks on the breeze. And every time I pass a mirror, I pause, just for a second, to make sure the reflection turns when I do. Because deep down, I know the glitch didn't close. It just chose which version of me got to stay.